Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. Now, things are a little bit different from last week because I bought a capture card and this is going to be the first EVE Talk on that capture card, but that did mean that I had to like remake the scene on the second PC, and hopefully everything will work out. Another thing is, in light of the Ascension expansion, something happened that I didn't expect, but I should maybe have seen coming, since the smallest engineering complexes are actually pretty cheap, probably around $1 billion or a little bit less. In cost of materials, people went pretty crazy on them around the most important construction hub, which is around Cheetah, so right in perimeter. When I came here to Cheetah to sell some stuff, I spotted like a dozen of these Raitaru engineering complexes providing the means to produce pretty much anything in the game. And that was to be expected, right? Cheetah is the biggest market, so in Cheetah or in perimeter next to Cheetah, there's also a huge amount of production to happen. And what could actually end up happening here is that this will reduce the cost of production, because of the fuel costs, of course. If enough corporations do use those engineering complexes, this could drastically cut down on fuel costs, despite the fact that like a dozen of these Raitarus may seem like complete overkill. And the second reason is that if they are forced basically to put these at zero taxes in order to compete with other possible Raitarus out there, it could actually reduce production costs across the board as well. So this could be pretty interesting. This could actually lead to lower prices in Cheetah. And in the light of that, let's take a look at the market. First of all, of course, we'll touch on plex. That's going to be at 2 minutes. So writing that down. And we can see that plex are going down quite drastically. In fact, in just like the 5-10 minutes it took me to get ready for EVE Talk, we got someone bringing them in at $1,050,000,000, then it's $1,059,000,000, and up there's a lot of them that are still below $1,070,000,000. So on the charts, I don't think I put these at 6 months just yet, which is gonna be around here. You can see that we're taking a pretty serious dive. And here at the end of October, early November was obviously the top, where I did manage to sell a few of my plexes at $1,260,000, $1,270,000 was pretty much the price range for the sellers. $1,230,000 for the chart here, median daily prices. But yeah, we're going down substantially towards $1 billion. The 5-day moving average and the 20-day moving average gap seems to be widening. So this does mean that this has some momentum. And of course, one of the major culprits in the last few days is probably going to be the sales. By now people know that CCP comes out with a Black Friday sale, with Thanksgiving sales and things like that. As a result, we do see the volumes increasing quite drastically. A lot of people taking advantage of the sales, but those volumes actually meaning more people dumping plex on the market in order to get their ISK out of it, really decreasing the price quite substantially. Pretty much $1 billion for a plex. It comes quite a bit closer to affordable territory compared to $1,230,000, $1,250,000, which just a month ago you had to pay. So good news for people that want to plex. These are going down, and I think with December coming up with more holidays, this is only going to get worse for now. So the double spike which I was expecting doesn't seem to be in the cards anymore for the plex market. Next up, we've got the multiple pallet trade certificate. Of course, it's going to mirror quite closely. The only interesting thing could be the median daily prices, a bit higher than on plex. And then here also today so far a little bit up from yesterday, which is quite unusual because plexes are just going down in a straight line pretty much in the last week or so. So these are still going for $1,129,000,000 ISK. It's actually no reason to go after these pilot trade certificates if you can buy plex, because they can do the exact same thing. And the buyers are at $1 billion. I forgot what the buyers for plex are at, $1,011,000,000. So you're really going to be able to pick up a plex very close to $1 billion ISK at this point. Next up, the body resculpt. You can see that that one is also taking a little bit of a beating in line with plex. That's interesting to see. We also have here a pretty big volume spike, and Just quickly lower the volume here a little bit. There we go. These have honestly for like at least the last 6 months or so have actually mostly been doing their own thing, these body resculpts, but here now we do see a decrease in price in tandem with plex, which is something that we've not seen that often. Volumes are picking up. That's something that we could have expected from the alpha clone characters. More people in the game mean that more people may want to finalize their character, finding some flaws with the way they look, and as a result you do see some pretty big volume spikes here, some increases in the volumes of the body resculpt. So I think it's looking good for this to actually become a pretty strong market. It's just that in the last week or so, under pressure from plex decreasing, these are also decreasing in price. Skill extractors next. This chart still looks bad. We really need to get to that 1 year price point. Or time point, but you can see again very strong correlation between these skill extractors and the actual plex prices. So a decrease in price, 5-day moving average, 20-day moving average, widening gap going down towards 240 million ISK, which is pretty much a price from 3 months ago. And if we take a look at this, the sellers are at 247.5 million, the buyers are at 236.5, so just 11 million. We used to have a bigger gap here, I think, but on the supply side of things, you can see here all of this in the last 24 hours, still in the last 24 hours from right here, and then the volumes 27, 33, 79, keep going up, 53, 49, 100 right here, more 40, 35, all of this still coming in here. Someone went pretty crazy, what's that, 3 hours ago, and then 3 hours and 40 minutes ago. So this is of course going to continue to push the skill extractor prices down, and I think buyers can basically afford to sit back, wait for the prices to crash, and pick up cheaper and cheaper skill extractors under pressure from plex. The skill injectors then, a little bit of a bounce back. That's quite interesting. It looked at the launch of Ascension like these were really going to go down quite substantially. The top was at around, let's see, 630 million, down to 570 million, but we are going back up to 610 million, a bit more in line with my expectations. I think basically that, especially at first, alpha clones are going to like the skill injectors as a first taste of, well, I'm going to try to earn my 600 million or take my 600 million and invest that in a skill injector so that I can basically beef my character up within the alpha clone skill pool, and then only then, if they enjoy the game long enough, will they start looking at plexes. But at that point it almost makes more sense to just go for an omega clone, pay for your subscription. And so the immediate, the shorter term effect, I think, is going to be for skill injectors, which are now going for 631 million, and the buyers are at 599, first one coming in, so close to 600 million. A counter move for skill injectors, which is actually quite significant. You would think that under pressure at the Ascension expansion, and then in the week after that, the skill extractors did a serious dip down. You would think that this could have been a double impact, going to a 6-month low, but nope, skill injectors actually going up in price a little bit and crossing the 20-day moving average. It could be quite significant, and this is a show of quite a lot of demand for skill injectors at the moment. Quite interesting in my opinion. Next up we've got some minerals that would be at 905. Okay. And let's get started with titanium, which you can see if I go all the way here, try to take 6 months once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, there we go. A very significant dip here as well, going down to 5 ISK on today's median daily price. That can still recover a little bit, but you can see that we've basically dropped below 6 ISK on average. First seller coming in at 599 as well, just a couple of minutes ago. And the buyers here 596, so this gap has completely closed. But 1.7 billion, a billion here 2 days ago. This is going to continue to put some pressure on titanium prices. Demand here 1.7 billion is still quite strong, to be honest. A billion here as well in the last 24 hours. It seems decently balanced, and unfortunately I think that means that we are going to have a ceiling at 6 ISK rather than an average price of 6 ISK, and sometimes a bounce up and down that can be decently significant depending on a big buyer coming in or a big seller coming in. So I think that unfortunately this means that we'll start moving below 6 ISK quite soon, and that will have basically a ceiling of 6 ISK. Anything above that, 6.2, 6.25, which is price ranges that were actually possible in the last few weeks during this period here after the summer, was an okay price for titanium to sell at, especially compared to some of the other high-SiC minerals. And so this is actually a dangerous first sign of, well, maybe the changes to mining, like the Orca coming in use, more of the new drones being used, so higher yields across the board. Maybe people have gotten used to what they need to do in order to get the boosting mechanics to work, and as a result, pretty serious dip here, which well, could be quite significant if the other ones are under pressure as well. So let's take a look at that. Here is the pyrite chart. So if I go on the chart, then I can try to dictate this a little bit. There we go. You can see 6-month low once again, median daily prices reaching 7 ISK for pyrite. Never seen that before, especially if you look at these volumes. We actually have huge volumes happening in the pyrite market at the moment, and despite that, this is just continuing to go down. So this is pretty crazy. We'll need a serious war in order to actually turn this around. 8.2 ISK for the sellers, 7.8 ISK for the buyers, and supply here, at least that is drying up a little bit, but 80 million here, 10 million here, 10 million here in the last 24 hours, in fact in the last 12 hours or so, is definitely not helping with the situation. You've got some bigger buyers, 162, 134, but these are a couple of days ago, and then yesterday, right, just in the last 24 hours, you just have these two small orders, which means that people are actually dumping pyrite to these buyers at well below 8 ISK, which is how you get these average prices here showing up towards 7 ISK here. Pretty crazy stuff, especially on the high volumes. So it's looking like the changes to mining will actually start to really pull down a lot of the minerals. Let's see what Mexalon is doing, the next larger high-SiC mineral. We definitely want to bring this down here. Also a serious dip back, 65 on average here. We've got 62 on average in the week. Again, higher volumes as well, but I think it just means that people are dumping their stocks at the moment. And we can see the sellers are at 67.25, still respectable, but the buyers are going down towards 60 ISK, 60.94 ISK right here. Demand slacking a little bit. You can see we just have a few orders, 47 million, 28 million. Sellers here, we've got 92 million, although that's a couple of days ago. Also slowing down. It's quite interesting to see this wide gap between sellers and buyers starting to form, and the average prices actually going down, which should indicate on a day like this, when you've got 62 ISK and you've got buyers at 61 ISK, that means that more people have been dumping their Mexalon straight to the buyers rather than wanting to wait for a sell price at a better price. So this is again a very strong indication that these minerals are under pressure from the mining changes. It's good, right? Couple weeks after the expansion, we're actually starting to get a bit of a feel of what's happening. Next up here, we've got Isogen. Again, really not a good picture. Median daily price of 67 on the chart, so that could be 67, 68. Pretty crazy, all-time low prices for Isogen. Once again here, increasing volumes, but these will, considering the median daily prices, just be dumping of Isogen stocks onto the buyer market. And well, honestly, I'm not sure. I think that this chart should at some point turn around and can make you a decent amount of money. So I would still be willing to risk some diversification, but I've always said it, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Be pretty careful. You never know what the market's going to do. The fact that the 5-day moving average and the 20-day moving average are widening at this point does mean that this is a pretty substantial crash on higher volumes. Currently sellers are at 70.29 ISK. I was buying some up at 80 ISK, so this is again down to very low prices, pretty much all-time low prices. I think at least since the day that I've started playing ETH, I've not seen Isogen this low, and the buyers are now going for 65 ISK. You can again see the very few fresh buy orders. I think means that people are still, despite these prices, just dumping their Isogen, saying, I want to get rid of this, I'm gonna sell straight to the buyers, which at this point I think is really becoming a big mistake. But I may be wrong as well. Maybe the mining changes are of such a nature, such a new paradigm here that, well, minerals will be that much lower in price. Next up, we've got Noxium. That should be a really bad picture then. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, going down again, also definitely at 6-month lows here. Average price is 382 now, just below 400 ISK. The sellers are at 402, the buyers at 381. So once again, you have this picture of slightly up volumes, not really as visible as some of the other ones, but these average price of 384, 379, things like that are dumping of Noxium stocks straight to buyers, right? A lot of people have to do that in order to create these median daily prices. Here 400 ISK, the sellers are at 402. It means that, well, people are just trying and get a little bit more out of their Noxium. Obviously, once the margin here has been pushed large enough, people are going to say, okay, I'm not going to waste those millions, I'm actually going to try and sell them for ever lower prices. But across the board here, again, you can see Noxium under pressure, 6-month low, median daily price just a couple of days ago, and now having a really hard time selling for more than 400 ISK. It's not a good sign. Next up, Zydrine. That obviously ought to be under pressure as well. So it is, although the market basically anticipated this with the announced Rorcal changes, but median daily prices here 959, 960, something like that. Sellers are at 967, so these are managing to dictate the price, and thus new supplies are important. You can see that this is not that drastic anymore. Maybe 5-6 orders a day seems to be what's coming in here. 3 million, 2.3 million is still quite a lot compared to the buyers here. But I think that basically the Zydrine decrease in price here since June, which a part of it is basically the summer slump, but after that, I think from this point on here in October, it was the announcement of the Rorcal changes with an incredible boost to its potential yield. That decreased the price even further, but from this chart here in November, it looks like the market was pretty much on the money. There was some speculation with median daily price at 930 and at 995, but pushing the price below 1000 ISK seems to have been right, because right now you do still have some supply coming in, nothing too great, and the price is basically staying at its normal point. Next up, we've got Megasite. Here again, you can see in October, this push down is the announcement of the Rorcal changes, which was quite significant for Megasite, going from 1285 after a rough summer as well, but pushing that price straight down to 1000. We recovered a little bit, 1045, something like that, but again, the market seem to have been correct on Megasite. Volumes not that drastically up, sellers at 1100 pretty much, and the buyers at 1042. So this puts it in the right perspective from Zydrine, but again, historically speaking, all of this is pretty low, and you can see that all of the minerals are going for very cheap prices at the moment. Pretty much all of them are at 6-month low price ranges, which is pretty damn crazy, especially if you look at something like Isogen currently selling for 70 ISK. That is just really low in my experience. So there you go, guys. That also means that this could help to cheaper materials across the board. Is that a good or a bad thing for the game? Always hard to tell. It's good for people that want to prepare for a major war, people that need that want to invest in these low prices. Basically, it means that you'll need a lot of patience. But if a big war happens and these go up in prices, this just means that you've got an even lower bottom to try and average out your purchases, which could mean more profits in case of a nice war. So I would say to all speculators, start stoking the fires of war, because my mineral stocks need to go up in value quite drastically at this point. Next up, we've got the PI stuff. That is at 20 minutes 15. There we go. Let's take a look at these here. Construction blocks continuing to be under pressure at the tail end here. Very, very interesting. 11,000 ISK. This is obviously a bit of a break trend together here. You can also see the 20-day moving average, 5-day moving average gap widening up a little bit. So now on this 1-year chart, you can see that we're pretty much on the average for a construction block. So it's sort of okay to still sell. It's also okay if you want to wait for another selling opportunity. The biggest danger is we've seen all these huge lock-in numbers, that this could be a big impact from returning players that are basically getting back into their PI habits, and thus increasing supply to such an extent that they can cause the price to drop from 14k to less than 11k. Quite significant. Let's see what the others are doing. Consumer electronics next. You can see here once again a pretty serious drop in price. This time the higher volumes not managing to claw the price back to an average of 13k. Here we're now just selling that once again for 11,000 ISK, something like that, despite increased volumes. Again, very strong indication that more supply is coming in, and that the great summer for PI, I mean this is an incredible summer we've seen for PI, is actually over, as more people are coming back trying to sell and make money from PI, which is easy money in EVE Online. They are of course having an impact on the price. Coolants, fuel related, that could actually be a pretty bad situation as well. Doing okay, but we can see the weakness at the tail end here. 11.5k when we had average of 13k and a peak of 15,000 is quite a pullback. We're now still a little bit above average. 10 to 11 is probably a normal average right here. This price range is probably normal. But you can see that we're going down again, widening gap between 5-day moving average, 20-day moving average. So this seems to have some momentum, and yeah, it again shows this pattern that returning players for this winter trying to get their ISK out of the PI market are a bit late to the party and are now spoiling it for everyone else. Enriched uranium, also fuel related. We can see the same pattern right here in the last week or so. Drop of the price from 15,000 ISK to 13.4 thousand ISK on the full 1-year chart. Still a bit above average, but again, just look at that momentum. Looks pretty dangerous, and I think that this is just going to continue. So not great. Mechanical parts, actually still holding quite strong. Also a bit of a late bloomer. We had basically an average to a weak summer here for mechanical parts, averaging, let's say, 9,000 ISK or a bit above that. Then we only went up September, October, November, and here now we're still averaging 11,000 ISK, which compared to the others is just okay. It's the same as the others pretty much, but mechanical parts is generally easier to produce, since all you need is a barren planet, which is quite a bit more common than some of the other ones. So this is basically a bit above average for mechanical parts, the one that's doing something different from all the others we've checked so far. Oxygen next. Here is the pattern right back in action. Average price is 384. Look at that, that's definitely towards the bottom of the chart. Crawling out of that just a little bit, but again, very weak end here. 5-day, 20-day moving average gap just widening up quite substantially. And yeah, the good times are apparently over. We are back to average, a bit below average even for oxygen here. Robotics next. This could be a strong indication because that is specialized, so it's a combination of refined. So let's take a look at this chart, and again here very strong July, August here, very good prices around 110,000 ISK here as the very peaks. But now here, look at these averages, 94,000, 92,000, 90,000 on one day. Then volumes did increase a little bit, but look at the response, right? Increased volumes for several days and a very timid response, and the 20-day moving average and the 5-day moving average seems to be meeting at around 95,000 ISK. So obviously back, if you look at these full 1 year charts down below here, back towards an average, but definitely coming down from a very strong summer. Rocket fuel next. Let's see what we can see here. Actually holding strong, quite surprising, but on a pretty big volume spike here, still going on average for 12,000 ISK, something like that. Yeah, probably 5-day moving average crossing 20-day moving average on the upward side of things. The one thing to notice here is if you look at this bottom chart for the full 1 year price ranges, you don't have such a noticeable strong summer here. You're basically still across the averages and some really weird data points. It looks like sometimes it's the sellers that win out at almost 13,000 ISK. Then the next day it's the buyers at 11,000 ISK, and thus you get this weird chart where apparently for now rocket fuel is doing quite decently, selling for 12.7 thousand ISK, buyers 11.4, and supply, well, full front page of them, just quantities 50, let's say 100,000 units. What are the median daily averages here? Yeah, 330,000 units, so definitely less than a day supply. This could be okay. Rocket fuels are actually going up and on the 5-day moving average, and I think that there could be good reason for that if you look at these supply numbers. Self-harmonizing power core next. That could be interesting to see from the engineering complex perspective, actually under pressure, quite interesting as well. 2.5 million coming down from 3 million. Probably a bit of speculation on the Ascension release here. So continued pressure, probably a compounded effect, because in order to make advanced you need several were these specialized, and these then of course need even more of these refined. We've seen that a lot of the refined are under pressure, so I think that this is just going to continue. These prices, if the chart wants to catch up, are bound to probably go down a little bit as well. We can see here in the last few days definitely under pressure, going for 2.5 million. Superconductors next. I've been making these now in the detail system on a couple of storm planets. You can see that we actually had a very strong run up to 16,000 ISK that only stopped I think last week or so, and now here the pattern again coming in, heading down towards 14,000 ISK. 5-day moving average crossing the 20-day moving average. On the 1 year chart though, luckily this increase in price here, September, October, has been quite strong, and we're still a bit above average, but again the pressure showing up at the tail end here. Test cultures next, doing something a little bit different, heading to 11,000 ISK just in the last day though. Look at that again, 5-day moving average, 20-day moving average, crossing today's price a little bit below that. So I would not be surprised, considering that we're on or just above average right now, that by next week we're actually going to be going down substantially. New supplies could be an indication. That's actually okay. Only these orders, the last 6 or so, are fresh ones, so it's still up in the air a little bit. But as people might move from all of these coolants, construction blocks, things like that are going down substantially towards test cultures, they might switch their production. I think it's definitely a possibility that this will also fall back. Also, again, not the strongest summer for test cultures, bit of a better tail end here, and so maybe a bit of a delayed response or something like that. Waitware mainframes next. Clearly here at the tail end we can again see that pattern of weakening prices heading towards 2.7 million, 2.8 almost, yeah, 2.7. Someone is willing to buy 3,000 units of these though, which is quite a lot, and that's probably going to keep the prices from crashing any further. But the general vibe across PI is that after a strong summer we are in for a weaker fall, probably a weak winter as well, considering if people come back, if we have a little bit of a war there as well, we could get a compounded effect of more people active in the game, and that means more people doing PI, which will probably end up being more supply across the board. I think it's definitely possible, especially if we have a war. This could be very good for minerals, but very bad for PI itself. So there we go, that's it for PI. Next up we've got Tech 1 chips at 29.45. Okay, I took a new selection. I think I tried to grab some of the more likely popular and doctrine-like ships. So let's get started. Here is the Caracal, and what I would like to see is there an impact from alpha characters, like a big demand or a lot of higher volumes, for instance, here in the Caracal? Yes, but I would say definitely crashing prices. This could be from the minerals, right? It's becoming very cheap to build Caracals, and so now we're going down towards 10.5 million median daily price for today, definitely on the lower end of the full 1 year chart. So Caracal, quite interesting, higher volumes, yeah, slightly, but lower prices, quite unusual. So supply of this stuff pretty high, not that many fresh orders. 374 here though is going to help. And selling for 10.5 million, buyers for less than 10 million right here, 9.6. Next up, Coercer. Let's take a look at that. Oops, put the chart up here. Here we get a bit of a different response, but looks like it's going to be short-lived. We're already at an average price of 1.27 million, so a bit of a blip up here. Could be Ascension related, as we also have slightly higher volumes, but it's probably a smaller market. Yeah, look at that, supply basically drying up of this, which means that it's very easy to create a pattern like this on very low volumes. The one thing though is that the gap gets plugged decently quickly here. Fresh supply, all of this coming in, 1.5 million, 1,449 apparently for some reason. And the median daily volumes here now, 89, 97, something like that. Yeah, basically still not that great. This bit of a blip because we were very low in supply, but not an indication that the alpha clones have completely brought back the Coercer market or anything like that. Dominic's next, not alpha clone related, but we also do want to get like a battleship in there. And these are going down as well. Low price, 180 million, definitely towards the 6-month low, probably due to the minerals being so low. 183 million for the sellers, 161 million for the buyers. Definitely a pretty cheap time to pick up some Dominic's if you want to use them and lose them. Volumes, just basically regular 50 maybe a day or something like that. Not great for a PvE ship. Next up, the Merlin. That could be a bit more interesting, and it is. There we go. Merlin, obviously one of the first, let's see if I can do it like this. Yep, one of the first frigates that alpha clones are going to use and get access to if they choose Caldari. We can see here that the price is basically all over the place, but the median average 5-day moving average here is obviously up quite substantially towards 400,000 ISK. It's still not that great, but considering where we come from on the higher volumes, especially here, look at that. Here, average volume 180, so less than 200, around 200, yeah, 342, 221. Now here we're talking at 1,250, we're talking 800 almost. So this is obviously a nice bit of volume increase after the Ascension expansion. Is it people that are organizing these fleets just bulk buying Merlins to give to alpha clones so that they can get out there, get in trouble? It's very much possible, and I guess it means that for now most alpha clones, if the destroyers are not showing this pattern, are sticking to the frigate skill pool and are basically specializing themselves in their frigates in order to be able to fly those more effectively. And as you get this high demand, you probably get high destruction as well. Very interesting. Next up here we've got the Oracle, obviously a battlecruiser not alpha related, and we are at the lower end of the price ranges, 74, 75 million, something like that. Slightly going up towards 80 in the last few days. but nothing too drastic to report. Decent availability, decent demand as well. Next up, the Raven, another PvE battleship that is considered to be pretty good for stuff like missions, and we can here see under pressure we're coming from 180 million back up to, well, a bit above that probably. Sellers are at 184 million, a few million more than the Dominics. Buyers at 172, 10 million more than the Dominics as well. So a bit of apparently a market that's slightly more alive than the Dominics market. Pretty big supply here with 45 of them. Almost a full front page coming in as well. So the Raven, after a bit of increase in price in just the last few days, is probably going to go back down a little bit. And the averages are obviously down towards 180 million, which is below average, but battleships are just not in the meta at the moment. Thrasher, here's our first destroyer. That could be a bit more interesting, but it is not. Unfortunately, pretty flat short except for one anomaly here. So average price is 1.2 million, something like that. I guess this means that the alpha clones have not reached the destroyer ranges just yet here, because we're not seeing anything all too substantial on the volumes either. I would say this just looks like more of the same, pretty average availability, yeah, quite decent. Demand decent as well, starting to pick up maybe, but no indication that it's nothing close to what we're seeing here on the Merlin volumes and price increase. So after that we've got the Tornado, suicide ganking ship for bigger targets. Not much to say, slightly on the downtrend as well. Average price 71 million ISK, nothing too drastic on the volumes either, just a bit below average right now. Availability is quite decent, demand is pretty low actually. I can't scroll anything here, so that is it, which means that, yeah, Tornado down in price. Tristan, this could be a bit more interesting as well, and it is. Yeah, there we go, the pattern is showing back up in the frigates. It just takes a bit more time, I guess. So the Tristan, just like the Merlin, was actually heading towards pretty low place, 470,000 ISK or something like that. But here now at the end, look at that, increasing volumes. Let's say 270, maybe 300 on average before. Now we're definitely averaging quite a bit more towards 600 unit, about a doubling of the volumes, increasing in price here as well. Sometimes you can ask 700,000 ISK for a Tristan, averaging maybe 600,000. Definitely a pretty major increase in price here, which is going to be an impact from the alpha clones. Quite interesting. Yeah, frigates. For frigates, the Tristan is of course going to be a pretty good one of the mainstays of Galente alpha characters, because of the drone damage they can do compared to all of the others. So next up for the mining ship, I chose the Venture for the exact same reason, alpha characters, and again, look at that pattern here, averaging volumes. Couldn't even tell it on the scale here, but we're probably talking 300, 350 or so on average. Here now we're talking 1200, 1345, averaging probably 900 to 1000 every day, meaning also an increase in price from 270,000 ISK to a high of 400,000 ISK, average maybe 350, 360, something like that. Sellers are at 360, buyers at 338, very strong demand here. So this is the alpha clone effect on the market, and it's showing it up in the frigates with much higher volumes. So it could be a pretty good time to actually try to produce some of these. You're bound to make a lot more money on stuff like these frigates, especially considering of course the value of the ores and of the minerals going down so much. Quite interesting. Next up here we've got the Vexor. I still needed a cruiser as well, slightly down in price here, volume slightly up though, that's quite interesting, averaging 11.6 million, yeah, a little bit below average if you look at the entire chart here. Availability of the Vexor though pretty good, and low demand, as is to be expected on these lower prices. So it looks like the alpha clone effect is happening. It's just staying in the frigate range for a lot longer. Probably the 50% training time has a lot to do with that, and maybe, well, a lot of alliances are saying, you know what, just get into frigates, those are really cheap, we can buy thousands of those and go get blown up That's going to be a lot better for them. Because they need tackle and they just need the bodies. Considering this market right now, it's going to be pretty tricky to get everyone into cruisers or even destroyers at this point. So it's going to be mostly frigates for most of the new players, probably dotted with a few destroyers and cruisers in between there. But that's why the impact is staying there. And I'm curious to see how long that is going to last. For how long are most of these alpha clones going to stay focused on their frigate skills, or are they ever going to ship up to cruisers? I think would be the more interesting effects. Next up, take 2 ships. That would be at 40 minutes, right on the money. Just a quick look here, because we don't have a major war or anything like that happening, and as a result, Basilisk under pressure. 190 million average price here is definitely at the lower end of the scale. No more buyers at 175 million. So if you're looking again for that investment, it's risky because you need a major war to happen in order to actually make money on that. But these empty buy orders are an indication that you could just try to make a bit of a long-term investment on the Basilisk right now. Next up, the broadswords. After dipping down, it looks like some people did, because the average price are back to 210 million. So we should see more buy orders, competing with one another. Exactly, when we dropped off from up to here, 189 was the last one. You probably had some competition in between there, but then people came in at 191, pushing the average prices up a little bit. So it's a little bit too late, but you can still try it if you want to. Oh, that was actually Cerberus charts. Let's see, broadsword charts. Oh, so that was the Cerberus. Sorry about that. Here's the broadsword chart, slowly going up in price to 250 million ISK. So this is now the one thing that I don't like about Tech 2 anymore. Basically drying up in supply here. There's still decent demand for broadswords, but this is so slow, an entire month to go from 230 million to 250 million. You're not making money on this investment in any good fashion. So that's why I don't like the Tech 2 market at the moment. Next up, the Damnation. A lovely little bump here with the Ascension expansion. That was actually to be expected. Higher volumes because of the new boost mechanics. And if you want to have these armor boosters, then you'll want a Damnation, for instance, although it is dropping off. So I think that this has just been some mass buying to try it all out, to fly them in the fights that have been happening. It's not been a major war, but you always have fights in nullsec, and as a result, pretty nice jump up from the Damnation. You could have made some money on this, but again, was pretty risky considering that we'd already jumped up and then recovered quite a lot. But yeah, it's true, right? 340 to a top of 400 million ISK. You could have made some money on that. It's just that this is CCP related, not war related. Next up, we've got the Hound, again showing its stability. Here was a slight buy opportunity. Now that's over. We're actually up in price at the higher end. Not much to say except that you're not gonna make a lot of money on this. Kronos next. Marauder costing around 1 billion ISK. Slightly under pressure as well here, averaging 1.16, 1.18 billion, so just below 1.2. Average price slightly above that, but not much to say. Next up here we get the Raptor Interceptor. Looks like that one is actually dipping down towards another buy opportunity. Average price 22.6 million. Buyers are empty at 20.7 million. This once again, just like with the Basilisk, is an opportunity to pick up some cheap Raptors if you want them, either to use them of course, or as preparation for a possible war. Here's the Saber then. Interdictors are bound to be decently popular and quite needed. Maybe also with all those alpha fleets running around could be a part of the explanation why these are going up so much. So 58 million for the sellers, 50 million for the buyers, when just a couple of weeks ago we had an average price of 47 million, so it's not all that drastic. It's in fact it's less than 10%, but definitely good to see some volatility in the market, at least here. So let's hope that this can actually continue and that this can be the start of more volatility, but I doubt it unless a war breaks out again. So this looks pretty good, but 47.6 to 57 is not bad, but the sellers, yeah, 58, yeah, all right. You could actually have made quite a decent amount of money on this prolonged lower period right here if you manage to pick some up. So yeah, Saber, okay, you could have made a Saber trade a couple of weeks ago by purchasing at this price range. Interesting, let's hope it becomes a pattern. Again, unfortunately, I doubt it. Here's a Stork next. Exists for less than a year, which is why you're getting this chart. Here we had a dip. I probably should have said that you could try to buy some of these as an investment, going for 54, 52, yeah, 53 maybe if you're very lucky. Buyers are up to 58 million, so just under 10% on the buyer perspective, back up to 65 million. There's a bit more volatility in the Stork, probably because it exists less than a year, so you've got less people with the exact means to mass produce these. I think a lot of people will have big reserves of Cerberus, Damnation, Hounds especially, and things like that. For the Stork, it's a different story because it just doesn't exist that long. Next up here we get the Widow. Let's get that one to the very end. Bring it in at around 6 months. Under pressure a little bit, going towards 6-month lows actually. For 950 million. Volumes are also going down, I would say. Yeah, no, actually around average, but we're talking 10 ships a day or something like that. So just under pressure. You want to risk an investment, you could, right? Buyers are empty. You could try to pick up a Widow for less than 900 million ISK. But again, considering the low volumes, this is a very high risk buy opportunity if you want to take it. Okay, so take two markets. All right, one nice interdictor trade that we could have done, but across the board still feels very risky. Few buy opportunities if you know that a Gnostic war is coming. Next up, take three. That's going to be at 46.45. There we go. And yeah, let's take a look at the destroyers first. Here is the Confessor. I said probably a buy opportunity, I think, last week, and look at that, we're dropping to 36.5 million. A lot of people said, well, this is due to the nerfs, and yeah, of course, a lot of people are dumping these Confessors due to the nerfs, but what I like here is that this is actually flattening out towards this price range, 36.5 million, and of course, this is coming after a big dump. And are the Confessors completely useless? I personally don't think so. They might still have their uses. So I think a buy opportunity at this bottom could be forming. Again, in a war, a couple of people might still want to fly some Confessor fleets around there. And as a result, if these guys get lost, this could be a pretty good buy opportunity. Considering, look at all the dumping that's happening. Full front page, 56.40 right here. Of fresh ones here, 46 couple days ago, 50 here. It's quite a lot of Confessors that have come to the market. Low demand, buy orders basically emptied out. You can easily try to pick a couple up at around 34 to 35 million ISK. And is that cheap after the nerfs? It's a bit of a gamble, but I would say, considering the volumes that are coming in here, that this is a buy opportunity. Next up here we've got the Hecate, so probably hit a little bit less by the nerfs, but also under pressure quite substantially. Increased volumes, bumping up the price only to 41.7 million. Buyers are at 38, sellers are at 42. A lot of supply, look at that again, full front page including 69. Buyers are emptying out slowly, right? Not that many fresh buy orders here. So again, Hecate, you know, if you're expecting a war, then this could actually be a good time to make a move on some of these, especially considering that we're decently close to 6-month lows. Jackdaw next, let's take a look at that. Also under pressure. Yes, in fact, 6-month lows are being hit, 37.8 million. Where are the buyers at? 36.2 million. Decently timid. They're coming in though. And 39 million for the sellers. Again, with quite a lot of them coming in here. So volumes are up, but this is due to dumping and selling straight to buy orders. If you want to take the gamble, just look at this chart. I think it looks like it could be okay. And here's the Svepol next, which is I think hit the hardest by the nerves. Thus real 6-month low 36.8 million, down substantially. 37 million for the sellers, 35.5 for the buyers. This is all flattening out quite nicely. If you want to try and to risk it, then I think this week, this pattern here is what you're looking for to try and pick up a few. You can also see that I'm not alone in that perspective. Volumes pretty down, but here up all of a sudden. On the Confessor, we're not seeing that just yet, so I actually think that the Confessor is right where it needs to be. On the Hecate, here again, up slightly, and so that means that some people are actually starting to, here again, make their moves as investments on these destroyers. It's up to you if you want in on that or not. Next up, we've got the cruisers, also under pressure now. Here is the Legion. Whoa. 140 million, definitely down well below average. Fresh supply, quite a lot, look at that. Full front page, no demand whatsoever. This is a buy opportunity for the Legion. If a big alliance sees these spots, they might want to jump in and just grab a whole fleet of these, because it's pretty cheap. And all of this supply, let's say 146, still needs to be down a little bit, but as long as no fresh demand, so don't go overboard in your investments. But a few Legions at 136 million should definitely be possible, which if you look at the rest of the chart here, 180 sometimes 200 million is possible, makes for a pretty good investment. Let's take a look at the Loki chart here, also going pretty damn low, 130 million on average. Here buyers not that many, 127, 128 should be possible, 135 for the sellers. Fresh supply, full front page once again. So Tech 3 market once again oversupplied quite substantially, and now I'm personally liking the cruisers more than the battle cruisers, because these are actually coming to the same point as in June, which was an awesome buy opportunity. Again, you're dependent on a war to happen, on something to happen in Nullsec, but I like this a lot more than the Tech 2 ships, considering this chart right here. Next up, we've got Proteus, actually holding a bit stronger at 160. More buyers, not by a lot though, 151, something like that. But of course, Loki Legion looking by far the best. And here's the Tengu then, which is down 2 million on the ticker, heading there, 150. Fresh supply, yeah, more than a full front page, two front pages pretty much of new Legions. If people dump to enough of these buy orders and you get to below 140, pretty good opportunity for the Tengu forming as well. So the Tech 3 market, if you're looking to spend some ISK on a gamble, then definitely look at Confessor, look at Loki and Legion. I think those are really interesting in case of a big war. I think that looks pretty damn good. And finally, for the extra product today, okay, we're actually going through this pretty quickly, but at around 53 minutes. 53, it's more alpha character related, so I'm going to check on the navy ships, frigates and cruisers, and the gnosis. Why? The frigate impact is bound to be PvP related, right? If you want to get these alpha clones into nullsec, into lowsec, doing PvP, doing the EVE blow up stuff and get blown up stuff, then you're getting them into frigates right now, thus the increased volumes. But for those alpha characters that want to check it out, want to go on their own, want to actually try to earn plex, these ships are where it's going to be at. And so I want to see if there's a noticeable impact on these ships. So let's take a quick look here, and at the end, look at that increase in price on the Caldari Navy Hook bill, up to 16.5 million ISK. Volumes up a little bit as well in the last week, so I would say slight impact visible on the Navy Hook bill. Federation Navy Comet next, was already at a pretty high point and actually dropping in price, but look at the volumes, definitely up, so that's starting to be interesting. Imperial Navy Slicer was dropping down, volumes going down quite substantially, so Unfortunately, this might just be faction warfare related. I wouldn't... Galdari Navy Hookbill, I would dare to say that this could be Alpha Clone related. And looks like we would need this information on the 07 show. Not sure if it's going to happen, but a breakdown of which race has been made the more. Historically, Galdari has been the most popular, and so this could actually be Alpha Clone related. So it could be. Here is the Crucifier Navy issue. Apparently doesn't exist that long, but yeah, up quite substantially in price. 20 million all of a sudden. Here it was 12.13 million or something like that. Volume's not visible, so this could also still be faction warfare related, to be honest. Griffin Navy issue. Pretty flat, of course. As an alpha character, you would not go for an E-War platform. Molus Navy issue, pretty flat as well, slightly up, nothing too visible in volumes. And then finally, Vigil Navy issue, nope. So the one that I would say could be Alpha Clone related would be the Galdari Navy Hookbill, which to me indicates that most Alpha Clones, most of these characters are actually going into Galdari, which from the perspective of if you would ask a Nullsec Alliance, what race should I choose? I think Galdari makes the most sense for eventually hitting the Caracal, which is considered a very strong doctrine. So let's take a look at the cruisers. If you want to make some real money, then you're going for some of these Navy cruisers. And Ogre Navy issue, look at that, up quite substantially. Big volume spike here as well, so it could be. Caracal Navy issue should see the same pattern here then. Well, you do see the increased volumes here. This might be mostly speculation though, because I doubt a lot of alpha characters, especially the new players, are already in Caracal Navy issues, but look at that. That's definitely a big volume spike to say that this is just faction warfare related. It doesn't manage to sustain itself, but I think this is probably an alpha character impact. Caracal Navy issue may end up being the most expensive Nullsec doctrine in the end for alpha clones, right? If you want to get them in as good a ship as possible, it's probably going to be something like this. So yeah, quite interesting that we are seeing a lot of buying of these. Executor Navy issue, it's definitely a different beast. We do see increased volumes, but nothing on the price range, so I don't think it's part of the equation. Omen Navy issue, up over 6 months, but nothing to see on the volumes, so I don't think Amar is that popular. Osprey Navy issue, it's Galente, but I think it's logistics, missiles. No, just doesn't seem to be doing it for people because we're at a low price. We do see higher volumes, but on decreasing prices. I wouldn't say that that is related to alpha clones. Side fleet issue, no, increasing price, but don't see the volumes for that, so I think this is faction warfare related. Stabber Navy issue, yeah, nothing to report here. The last one, Vexor Navy issue, should give us an indication. Actually down in price substantially to 67 million. Volumes though do seem to be up quite substantially here at the tail end. So I would say on the faction Navy faction ships that alpha clones can fly so far, the major impact has actually been on preparation in volumes, not on price. The price still seems to be mostly dictated by faction warfare itself. That's my reading of these numbers right here. The final one that could be interesting, of course, is the Gnosis. That's probably going to be under special or something. So let's take it find it like this. Gnosis, yeah, obviously here again, serious bump up on higher volumes when alpha clones know that, well, the one battle cruiser I can fly is the Gnosis, but I guess that the gifts, right, to get a Gnosis for the gifts as well is going to put a bit of a damper on that. So good move CCP. I like allowing the Gnosis for alpha characters. It's an awesome battle cruiser, the biggest ship that an alpha clone can go for. It gives them a real goal to work towards, to try to achieve, to get all the skills for that, then it's a really awesome ship for this. But combining that now with the gifts of giving out gnosis is going to mean that these should stay decently affordable for alpha characters. So here is the speculation happening on, oh my god, alpha characters can use gnosis, I need to buy some, I need to get ready for that, the price is going up. But the gifts come out, lots more gnosises, people saying, oh, look at the high price. Really? I can try to get 75 million for the gnosis? I'm gonna start dumping my ships, and we're right back down. So this is the alpha clone effect on the gnosis market, but CCP seem to have played that nicely for stability to keep this ship affordable for the alpha clones. So overall, it looks like the impact on the high-end ships is still only related to volumes, which is probably not from alpha clones themselves, but for prep. And the one impact that we are seeing so far is only in the frigate markets, in some of the better frigates for PvP, where you do see substantially higher volumes. And there you go, guys. That's it for this EVE Talk this week. Thank you very much for watching. If you can, try to pick up the 07 show tomorrow. I'll definitely do my best to watch that. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.